Got it.
Awesome. Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Midwest Mindset. Today's episode, we get another opportunity to meet another one of my brothers. John Tyson joins the podcast. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Paul. Hey, everyone. Thanks for inviting me, Paul. This is really cool. I've been watching the shows, and it's just nice to be a part of this. So thanks.
Yeah. Well, I think we're out of time. So thank you for your time. This was fun. This was great. We're gonna move on.
That's about as much time as I had. Thanks, everyone.
That's all we got. Can't thank you enough for all the time. No, but this is great because this is probably the furthest interview that we've done. We've had a lot of the local celebrities. We've had Jeff, we've had Jay, we've had Chad Daniels, all the local. But now you're coming to us from where?
Just LA, basically, just north of the valley in Los Angeles, Simi Valley, California. Southern California.
Nice. Very nice. You can see the background, the beautiful the sun, and it's looking good. Love your place
got a
there.
Pool going in the backyard.
Nice. Very nice. Well, thank you for joining the podcast. I'm excited to chat with you. In fact, I even obviously we talk about a couple different things, right? Growing up in the Midwest, positive mindset or growth mindset and those Midwest values. I sent you a video last night to kind of prime this discussion. I was working with the kids and on something. Emma's going through a Vietnam session right now in school. And I'm like, wow, well, we have 8mm reels that we've transferred to DVD that now I'm transferring to the cloud of Dad in Vietnam. And so she's going to take,
I haven't seen that in years.
She's going to take some of these videos and share it with her class, when they're talking about, the Ho Chi Minh Trail, when they talk about Da Nang and stuff, these fox like that. Dad's got footage of that. So we were going through that. And then I found the time that you got your first bicycle, the banana seat.
7th birthday. Yeah.
What birthday?
It was 7th birthday, so it was 1978. My wife watched it and she goes, "That is Stranger Things set right there."
Oh my gosh. So it was 1970. This is good. So put some context to it. So it was 1978. The bike was one of those big, like almost like a Harley looking bicycle.
Yeah, banana seat.
Big banana seat. And you were all excited. And then did you see that? Even Dad got you started. I love that.
Dad, I love it. Dad's got, beer in the left hand, helps push the right hand. I needed that little push, and then I was off and running. He was right there. That was cool.
Not a paved road, to even see in the distance. It was growing up on the farm and literally just dirt roads and learning how to ride a bike, learning how to, everything on a dirt road. It was crazy.
That's cool. Yeah. And it was crazy. So that got then you said the Vietnam videos, man, we grew up watching those. They were so surreal. They were quiet. But what you're seeing is pretty dramatic stuff, but it's presented in this kind of like we're safe and comfortable in our home environment. And you're watching that and it's just like, oh, wow, it shapes you. That's pretty interesting.
It is. And it also is kind of interesting looking at those videos. So what we're referring to, listener, is that my dad actually obviously served in the military, in the Army, U.S. Army, in Vietnam. And in that process, literally right before he went out there, he took a 8mm camera, like the flip film, and literally brought it over there and let some of his buddies film him. He filmed a bunch of things. There's some crazy stories that he has along with some of this filming. But I remember as a kid, like, you kind of figure out why somebody is a certain way. I mean, the things that he saw at Carter's age, by the way, this is Carter's age right now that he saw that stuff.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. When you think about that perspective.
and one of the things you mentioned it was fatherhood, Midwest mindset, fatherhood, and that, growth mindset in the Midwest. And yeah, watching that, just seeing Dad do that little thing was like, wow. The subtle but huge things going on there.
Yeah. Just being a dad. And that was interesting. So I set that video to you though of you getting your bike and that context because we grew up on this farm together. So let's take it back to those years. What's one of your favorite memories from growing up on the farm?
God, we were
Stearns
just
County.
like, to look back at it, one of my favorite memories. Well, you and I would chase each other a lot. We, I remember, um, I would, I would get you to charge. No, I was chasing you, and then I would get you mad, and then you would chase me. We'd play cat and mouse games. And we'd run for what seemed like miles. But there was one day where I tried to get in the house a little fast, and you were coming up behind me, and I shut the screen door in front of you, and you were coming at me, and I put the door in your hand basically, and broke the window. You remember, you probably still have a stitch there. And I was like, oh no, and the game stopped, and you were injured, and mom got a new screen door for, was it Mother's Day or something?
I think it was Mother's Day. Yeah, for sure. That was it's so funny because you always heard those stories, like uncles and stuff, like this is why we did this. Is like we had those, right? We did those, like literally.
Right.
I put my fist, which I don't know. I really didn't have my growth mindset really kicking in right then, back then. I probably, and by the way, just for the listener, there's a difference. John, you're 4 years older than I am. And then, and then there's me, and then Jeff's 2 years after that. So there's a little bit of difference, but I remember that distinctly. Yeah. That I put my fist, it kind of when it was like, bam, bam, we were kind of having fun, kind of not. And then all of a sudden that broke, and I'd get a stitch, and then we had to call mom. I remember calling mom at work saying,
and mom,
hey, guess
and dad
what?
weren't home. I was like, I don't know, I must have been 11, and I was babysitting 12.
Of course
and,
you were.
Not maybe in middle school. I don't even know. I don't think so. We were, and to look back at it now, it'd be like, oh, but it was awesome growing up that way. We had responsibilities. We weren't just running around breaking windows all the time. But that was a favorite memory. And the other one I'll end with here, Paul, is the when the pigs and the cows got out. We're farm boys. In the Midwest, we go to school. We would never dress like it. We would never own up to it. But we were indeed from the farm. But if the pigs got out, trying to get a pig back in the pen, there's some good stories there. The adventures of trying to, triangulate the space and get the pig to follow the way, and the pig would put his nose right up to where he's going to go, and then he would back out, and it was hours and hours. And Dad would get the pig would get there, and he'd slap it on the butt, and instead of going in like you wanted it to go right back out. And or coming home from a Sunday, whatever, church or family reunion, and the cows are like all over.
Just all over. Yep,
all over
for sure. It's you hit on something that actually is pretty interesting to me, and it's because we grew up on a farm, and we had cows, we had pigs. I don't know, I don't remember chickens. Maybe we did way back when, but we had all that stuff. But yet, the three of us, all of us, never like wore the overalls or wore like farm stuff. Like we did just the opposite. When we were done with the farm, we showered, we did everything we could to look like we were like from the city. Yeah. And what's funny about it is, then my question is, why do you think that is? Because like you're in Simi Valley, Jeff and I are down here in the cities. Like we didn't further on that lifestyle. We were so, at the time, even though now we look back and we see the value of it and the thing. But why do you think that is? Why do you think none of us really embraced that life?
Well, there was a perception amongst, we're at school age, you're trying to, fit in, and you're trying to belong. And the people you wanted to belong with were kind of the townspeople for some reason. I don't know that a lot of us, the country folk. I remember the farmers merchant softball games. It's like there was this mentality of the town had a mentality and the farmers had a mentality, and we resonated, I think, naturally with the townspeople a little bit more, even though we lived on a farm. So I think it's because of just how we felt. I think we just felt more like a townsperson living on a farm, and we acted that way, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting because I guess I've never really thought about it until you were just saying that. But I remember like all three of us have kind of like moved that direction. Right. I was very involved. In fact, I started kind of my own small business where we went to other farms and helped out with the four-wheeler. We went and literally baled hay, picked rocks, whatever it was, put in silage, whatever, working for them. But yet, as soon as we were done working, we transitioned. You got into band, and then all of a sudden I got into sports. Jeff got into both. And it's interesting kind of why we did. And maybe that's the mom piece of us a little bit more. having a strong mother figure and kind of her. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts on that?
No, I think that's right. I think that, we had both, like dad was a little bit more from the farm and mom was maybe a little bit more
Dad was
city
a little bit more
mentality.
country. Mom was a little bit more rock and roll.
Totally. And we just like, we played in both hemispheres growing up. And then it was the activities for us that brought us we were first generation college people. We were first
Yeah.
generation to kind of move out. Well, not, I don't know. I mean, we all moved out into the metro areas. And that's been a wave for this whole generation. And that'll probably change, but we were a part of that time frame. So I think that shaped us.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting to hear you say that. So those were those great memories, but then slowly you transitioned as you got older into your passion. And can you tell us a little bit about that? And then, like 18, what happened at 18?
Right. Crazy, just this freak drumline program with Dickie Roush and this amazing opportunity in the middle of these farm communities, built a world-class drumline. And it took me, I rode that wave as a, I had it. I was lucky I had that gift. And so I followed all the way to the Bay Area. As soon as I graduated, I went audition in California for the Blue Devils and I moved out. I remember
Moved
I was
out.
18 years old. I was Carter's age, sitting there with my plane ticket at the dinner table. And my dad still like, not believing I was going to go. I had been planning it for 2 years. So yeah, it took me on this path and I traveled with drum and bugle corps and taught for 7 years. And then that segued into high school marching band. And that took me all across the country. Then I was in Oklahoma for 8 years, got my undergrad there. So California for 5 years, Oklahoma. Then I made it back to Minnesota. Woohoo!
Yeah. So I'm gonna pause you. I'm gonna pause you there because you're running like a roller coaster, which is great. First of all, two things. One, I'm going to let the audience know that you have a couple spots on your face because you literally just had a dermatology appointment and it went well, but they zapped you, and that's what's going on there, right?
Right. Yeah.
All right.
I don't know if you can see it, but I got the nitrous oxide or whatever. Yeah.
You got the zap. So that's what's going on if you're listening, if you're watching this live. If you're listening though, the other thing I was going to stop you on is that, like, I don't like in retrospect, like you said, dad's sitting there thinking, oh, he's not going to go. He's going to go to the end of the driveway, turn around, come back. Like, you flew out there to live with a kind of a host family. Yep. and join this drum and bugle corps. I mean, what was that like? I mean, coming from the Midwest, going to literally Concord, California.
Yeah. Concord, California. It's the Bay Area. It's East Bay, just east of San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And
what was that like?
Well, it was like kind of like a life passion, early life passion. That's all I saw in life was this dream. It kind of became a dream. And so the motivation and inspiration of the dream fueled me through all. Looking back on it, was like, how did I do that? It was the feel of the dream and the inspiration, music, and being in a prestigious group and auditioning for it and making it in. Was kind of became a calling card for me, and it was it was incredible experience.
Yeah. Well, and can you have, because when I think about that experience and looking back from my perspective, I remember you having some key mentors in your life. I mean, obviously Dick Roush, because of what he built in Cold Spring with this drum corps and this drum line, the Cracker Jack drum line that he did during parades during the summer, all these different things, the kind of the empire that he was building then, but also the mentors that you had in your life. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Oh yeah, key people all throughout, and it went from Dick Roush to Tom Float, passed away only a couple months ago, and he shaped so many of our the drummers that I met there, and then the drummers that I met in that group became some of my mentors. Mike McIntosh helped me get my jobs, and I became a part of that pipeline, and in that pipeline I had Tom Stout in Oklahoma, Steve Vento, and Kim Vento, and great friends, Chris Barber and Chris Harris, and all these people along the way who were just great teachers, great mentors, whether it was just making life decisions like going to college. You were a big part of that, because I was on this path of, do I do the drumline instructor thing or do I get that degree? And so I didn't graduate till I was 30, but key people in my life, we're part of that. I'm trying to think of who else, along the way. But great friends, a lot of great friends.
Yeah. I know there was I was retelling the story to a couple of people on the youth commission here in town, talking about because Rosemont just went to the Rose Bowl parade and did that whole thing. And I said, actually, my brother, used to be the band director here, and he was a Blue Devil back in the day. And they're like, whoa, Blue Devil. And they knew the drum corps scene. And so I said, well, it really, like, coming from a small town to go out and do the things he did, where, I mean, monumental, like, leaps of faith a little bit, but there was a little bit of a history there. There was a bunch of people from Cold Spring that had gone through that experience already, right?
Yeah, we had a 10-year run, and there was one generation before me that blazed the trail. Jay Dold and Todd Rugemer and Linda Drontel went out at first, and then there was 10 years of us being able to go through that pipeline. Kevin Faber went before me, Melanie and I went out, and then after us there was Sarah, and I know I'm forgetting people. Mike Schrummel was out there, Billy Nierenhausen. We had about 10 people over 10 years from Dickie's groups just have the skill set, because it was just such a unique, amazing thing. And going out there is really cool.
Yeah. That's that I even remember, like, didn't you went to China? You toured all over the place.
Yeah. So with, Rosemont, you bring up Rosemont, that was an amazing teaching experience in the community there. We took the band to Rosemont, and they're still just like huge and winning championships. And at the time when I was there, we started winning the state championships. They started the state championship, and then we kind of were in it from the beginning. Just an amazing experience. But my teaching philosophy became shaped out of that. Was I want to give back what I was given, and I'm still doing that today. I'm in my 23rd or whatever year as a public school teacher, and I've been teaching really since I aged out in 1992, trying to give that gift back. And it's a self-perpetuating awesome cycle. So
yeah. Oh, that's great. So you did that. You went to TU, graduated there, and did the Oklahoma thing. You were down in Oklahoma. That's where you graduated. Then you moved back to Rosemont. Like you said, you worked with the Rosemont band and set them up for success. And then you made that transition back to California. Tell me a little bit about that, because that's a great story.
I know, crazy you to reflect, and it should be all about me. I want to talk about cool experiences, but yeah, I met someone special at my master's program. I was recently divorced at the time, and then I met Samantha, and Samantha's from Simi Valley, and that's where I'm at now. And so did a year long distance relationship, decided to move out here. We got married, got a couple little kids. We have Alex, who is I'm stepfather to Alex, and then we've got Max, who is 11, and Zoe, who's 9. And so I've been here for over 10 years already, teaching at several schools here in LA area. So
awesome. Well,
crazy wild ride, man.
It is, and that's why it feels like in 2 seconds we've gone through this trajectory of riding a banana bite with Dad, holding it down the road, to all of a sudden, coming back from LA, or Concord rather, the Bay Area, with sandals, long hair, and pierced ears. We're like, that's one of my favorite moments I remember, is you walking back in the house after being gone for so long, and Dad just looking at you like, what happened to my son? What happened to my boy?
Hippie hair. Mom would always say, Dad said, don't get an earring. Came back with a nice little hoop ring in the 90s, like he did. And it's like, hey, here I am.
There you are. I
remember coming back one time, and they said, John, you want a beer? And I said, no, I got a tea. Looked at me. We're talking about Midwest mindset, just the norms. And coming back, I have that perspective. There are certain norms in Minnesota, especially a small count, but Midwest, there are norms of what's normal and accepted. And I get a strong sense of that when I get back, and I love that.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes it's thrown in your face. But another story about when you were at drum corps is you guys were we followed you around when you came to the Midwest. And I remember, like, you were in, I don't know, probably Whitewater, Wisconsin, practicing in the parking lot, and we were coming to see the show. And so Dad is driving, literally pulls up like 5 feet in front of you as you're practicing, And we were
two
like,
deep.
John, we're here, like in the middle of your like practice. Everybody's
Having a snare sectional. We're in Omaha, Nebraska. 10
oh,
snares.
okay.
Two Devils, 1990. These are like, in the drum corps world, these are kind of like pivotal figures, and it was a historic line, whatever. I'm just like trying to, I'm in it. Dad drives up the car, right, and we're on the curb of a parking lot, and the parking lot's open, and Dad drives right up to right up like in the line, like Tom Float's. If he hit the gas, he's killing Tom Float. It's like and Tom Float comes over, and his Hall of Fame drum corps person. He comes up to my drum, looks at me, goes, "Is your family?" And you guys are frozen, like, God dang it, Dad!
We're like, Dad, what are you doing? He gets out, pops the trunk, and opens a cooler of beer and cracks a beer. Because that's what you do.
That's what you do.
That's what you
like,
do when
I'm
you go
back
see your.
home. Yay!
Oh my gosh, I love it. So, all right, so transitioning as we keep going on, because I think we could talk here for forever.
Right,
but
right,
so fatherhood. So you said Alex, you have Max, and Zoe now. So what has that been like? So Max is 11, so you've had 10 years now. What does that look like? What's fatherhood mean to you?
Humbling, vulnerable, flexible. Growth is, it's more that they're teaching and showing us about life versus us showing them about life, or it's both. It's this mirror, and when you see your children reflect back some of your best, but even your worst and most like trying to hide qualities, is so humbling. But then you got a choice to make. Either you do something about that and grow through it and learn, or you can just put up the wall and what, just fight that. I can't do that. And so but it's painful making those changes and seeing that, but it's nonstop.
Well, here to share a specific story that comes to mind when you think about that?
Gosh, there's been a couple of humbling experiences that have been a little hard to talk about, so growing up and generationally, if you did something wrong when you're young, you gotta spank, and
Sure.
And so I'm raising kids, and I am 40 years older than my child, and we grew up in kind of 20s. My grandpa was 20 years older than mom was 20 years older than me, and I'm 40 years older than Max. So it's like I skipped a generation. So what I noticed is, and so one of my children was being naughty and kicking my seat while I was driving, and it was coming out of a park, and it was in a small residential town in LA, in Pasadena, and kicking the back, and I got angry, and I usually can keep my cool. I pulled over to the side of the road. It was a quiet street, somewhat. Pulled over, got out, and opened the door and gave her a spanking, and got it back in, and like, God dang it, whatever. And it didn't really work, but did it anyway. It was early, and I got in, and I pulled out, and the cop was right there behind me.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about this
and
story.
I realized what, in that moment, I realized
looked
what it was like.
Yeah.
And so he pulled up in front of me, and it was immediate. He was on me, like he pulled up in front of me, stopped, and then I stopped, and the second cop came right on the right. He goes, "Follow me, get over here," and they got me off the road and moved me onto the side. It wasn't that busy, but they pulled off, and I'm just, just going, oh no, okay, I have to show them that I'm not as crazy as that might have looked. Okay, driver's license out, just heart racing, calm tone. And the cop came up, and I said, "Hi." So I'm talking about humbling, right? And my kids tend to be really good at being dramatic,
Sure.
in a way that I think it's a talent. And so, like if they're very exaggerated. So the cops there, and the kids, and Zoe and I are still, it was Zoe that I spanked. We're still like kind of like buzzing from the experience. Max was scared, and the cop pulled Max out of the car. I mean, we had a nice initial interaction with the cop. We pulled Max out of the car to check, to get a bearing of, okay, is everything really okay? and he was crying. Max, I think at the time, was 6 or 7,
Yeah.
and so he was maybe 4 or 5, and Max, it was really hard for him, but apparently the cop got the idea that, okay, this is okay, and he said, look, um, this is something that we could normally report to child services if we deemed this wasn't. And I'm just like, what world? I mean, I quickly stepped into modern parenting in that moment.
Yeah. Wow. I'm
Humbling.
First of all, I consider myself a very good interviewer, but I had no idea where we were going to go with that. First of all, I forgot about that story. I know this
Sorry, yeah,
story, but when
yeah,
you went there, I was like, oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that with me.
yeah,
Um, I mean, you talked about vulnerability, you talked about humility, you talked about learning from lessons and stuff like that. Since you just shared this with us, and thank you for doing that. I mean, we talk about the fear and anxiety that we have as parents to begin with, right? Raising these kids. For you to transition from being like the way we were, you know what I mean? You get ticked at a kid, the way we grew up, right?
right.
To transition to like real world, like, oh, hey, this has gotten very serious very quickly. For you to pivot, I mean, that's a superpower. That's awesome.
Thanks. Teaching prepared me for that moment because we're the
Yeah.
first generation of educators where the philosophy changed to not teach like you were taught, or it felt that way, at least. Quite a mindset. Boom, front and center. Growth mindset happened in education when I entered education for me, and it just became a way. And I have you talked about mindset, and I'm like, oh yeah, I got it here on the door. I have the graphic, the pyramid, the approach, versus a fixed mindset, growth mindset. And so I'd been practicing that for a while, so I had that muscle as a teacher
Yeah.
for several decades by that point. So, but to do that as a parent, and then the emotional side of it, because teacher, you can go home at the end of the day. When you're parent, you're wearing it.
Yeah, and even to hear that that officer say, child services, you're like that lands, you know what I mean? That scares the living piss out of
Oh
you,
my
right?
gosh, yeah. That's like,
Um,
that could follow me. That could be on my record. That could be taint the whole how I'm viewed publicly. As a
yeah.
team, as in a community, having a record, like, or something. Just like your brain goes there, and it's like, oh my gosh, I just was trying to spank my child. Okay, got to find a new way.
So yeah, so then my next follow-up question would be, yeah, what did you learn from that experience? I mean, the highs and
that
lows of it moving
that's an
forward.
ineffective approach, and that will never do that again. It's the fast learn. There's slow learns and fast learns, and that's a fast one. And I could, in that next moment, and the next moment, when that trigger got triggered, that experience was strong enough for me to get past the trigger and change the behavior.
Yeah.
So what I do, I mean, just learned coping mechanisms, tools. I started to understand tool chest and variety, whether it's handling anxiety or personal or their anxiety. We all have it. It's like, and we came, certain family mottos like, we all have anxiety, and so that means X, Y, and Z. X, Y, and Z are the tools. Breath work has been a big part of that.
Yeah.
Got my opening it up to psychotherapy, opening it up to therapy, and normalizing that word. Growing up, that meant something was wrong with you,
Yep.
and now
Well, that
that
family,
experience,
they have a therapist. Yeah.
yeah, shifted me to, no, that's just a tool in the tool chest. It helps. Talk therapy. I mean, and it's an objective. It's, I have you. I am so lucky to have you in my life, and my mom and dad and Jeff and our uncles and Dawn. And it's like we have these people in our lives that we can share with, but the therapist is that objective, and
Yeah.
doesn't have any skin in the game, and you can open up in a different way. And I realized that that's one of the tools that I've since opened up to.
So Wow, I love that.
Sorry, I'm going deep, everyone.
No. This
Coffee
is
and
great.
laughs.
This is good stuff. I'm telling you, yeah. You know, you throw a little Bailey's in coffee, and John starts talking really easy, right? You know,
Hey, Jeff.
no,
Hey, Jeff.
yeah, Jeff. That's the other brother. No, so you said trigger, but I love that idea of implementing tools. We talk about it all the time on this podcast. How
Yeah.
we can use tools to handle these things. Like one of the things I just watched the other day is, do you know Sadhguru? This he was on, and I think it might have been a little clip that he was on
You shared with me.
Joe Rogan, but he talks about this chair that you're sitting in right now. It's a chair and it's held together by a screw. So you're a strong person, you're a strong man. Try to take that screw out right now. Well, you take your finger and you're like, I'm starting to work with it. Maybe a teeth, you know, you can't get it out. It's hard, right? So what do you need? You need that tool, right? You can be the strongest person in the world, but in order to take that chair apart, you need to take that screw out. You need that tool. And he's like, it's the same way in life. You need to get through life. You need to go through hard things. You need to do things that are extraordinary. You need tools.
Yeah, we grew up as men, like hearing these statements of "be a man, tough it out." All those like oversimplified, unuseful, and prohibiting actual tools. It's not about strong, it's about smart. It's about having
yeah
got a lot, Paul.
So this is a book. I don't normally do this, but Man Enough is a great this Justin Baldoni it's a book on masculinity, and it talks specifically about all of these cliches that used to say that are, you know, the old school people used to like, be, you know, toughen up, be a man, all these different bullshit statements, because they come from a place of fear, of anxiety, of, you know, of insecurity.
Yeah, they come from lack, not abundance. Yeah.
Right. Wow.
That's cool. Thanks for sharing. I don't know if you talked about that book before, but thanks.
Yeah. Check that out. So wow, that's thanks for sharing that story. So what do you love most about being a dad?
That they eventually graduate and move out, you know, let's get them out. Let's get them. Let's, I'm counting the days, man. Let's go. When can I get the RV and travel across the country, get my life back? Jeez. No, just kidding.
Sure.
What do I love most about being a dad? The unexpected, that just moments where it's just like, and I can't think of a specific one right now, but just like you're doing the fight, you're in the grind, you're teaching, you're learning, you're making messes, you're cleaning them up constantly, and then all of a sudden, some simple stupid thing like going to a car, you know, passing at a stoplight and having the kids laugh at a joke you made is like life. It's like, how can that be so transformative? How could that be so amazing? You know, I was driving one day in the car and a bird shit on the window. Sorry, bleep that out.
That's right.
And I started
we'll cut that in post.
And I just started making fun of it, and I made up a little song, and the kids started belly laughing and giggling. Oh my gosh. Or we put on Hamilton and we make up all the words and talk about, okay, use food words, and we make up all the words. I mean, it's just so much of that is really just, and all it takes is one little dose to make all that hard work beyond worth it.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's cool. And yeah, I love it. Your kids, I'm excited for them to, I think you're coming out this June. We're really excited for that.
Yeah, Carter's graduation.
Yeah, so Carter's graduation. So I mean, we're rolling here. We've been going for a while here already, but I wanted to transition. So I know you're a great father and you do unbelievable things, but in your personal life, and you know, I know you're a teacher. You teach at this private school for music, and I know that fills your cup. How about you? When we talk about a growth mindset, what does a growth mindset look like, or what does it mean to you?
Personally, you know, as you're getting older, you know, body starts changing. That's getting more in my focus. You know, I didn't know what anxiety really was, and I started having these, you know, so I started having panic attacks, and that woke me up to what anxiety really was. So that took up a lot of my time personally, but I feel like I'm rounding that. Are you talking about kind of hobbies or growth mindset?
How do you how do you show up like on a regular basis? Like how do you show up? So like I said, you teach at this private school, you're dealing with your kids, with your spouse, with Samantha. How do you show up with more of that growth mindset where it's like, okay, I didn't do that yet, rather than I need to do this and we put this pressure instead of thinking like a fixed mindset. How do you wake up in the morning after all you've been through with more of a growth mindset, or what does a mindset mean to you, or how do you interact on that on a regular basis?
It might be by this point, whether it's personal work or whatever, overcoming obstacles. I think I'm so in the habit, I'm a band person, so I teach rehearsal skills. I think I'm so there in terms of it being normal for me to have that growth mindset. So how do I do it? I don't even think about it. It's autopilot, even after some big blows. Practice. I teach practice performance.
Yesterday, why don't we talk about the example that happened to you yesterday? You were practicing, you have a big show tonight, and what happened?
Oh, yeah. Well, we have a big show tonight where I'm the conductor for Matilda musical theater, our opening night tonight. And we've been working for all semester, and our lead piano player got sick yesterday. It was our final rehearsal before the first show. She got sick and she didn't email me. And so I found out at the rehearsal, and I had to come up with a piano player that the whole show is either going to, the show must go on. Like we had to hire a professional. We made about 9 phone calls, and the half an hour we had before the rehearsal started, and we're calling people and we're saying, okay, when are you available? Okay, can you do Thursday? Can you do Friday and Saturday now? Okay, this person can't. Blah, 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 blah. How do you handle it? You have to. I don't know. It's the carrot and the stick, having that performance and that mirrors in my life, having to get up, and now we have a new dog and the kids, having that propels me forward to the point where when I have a moment to myself, I'm not sure what to do for a second. Like I keep myself so busy that my new growth mindset is about being comfortable in my own skin. And so yoga and audiobooks and some meditation, is starting to become a norm that I can go to be ready for those moments. And for my personal mindset, it's how I can recharge my batteries in a very short part of time. Exercise especially, but I'm not on that train right now, and that's why I'm not feeling great. So that's a big component that I'm not currently utilizing as much, but a lot of mindset stuff.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting because I've witnessed all of this, right? But I also see that you show up better when you make time for yourself. It's making time for that. I mean, when you are, you got this big production tonight, you have kids that are busy, you have a brand new dog. Samantha's a busy professional. She's an administrator in the district and doing all these different things. But we talk about it all the time on the podcast. We got to take care of ourselves first in order to make sure that we can do all those great things for your family, for your kids that you're teaching, all these different things. So I love to hear that you're finding ways to, whether it's yoga, whether it's meditation, whether it's even 5 minutes of going for a walk outdoors, like action, taking movement. Those things are so important, and I think you've gotten a lot better as I've seen you kind of go through this transition of being a young father. I think you're using some of those tools a little bit more frequently in order to make sure you have a balanced mindset. It's not always going to be great, right? It doesn't have to be have to be freaking sunny and 80 degrees at California all the time. Sometimes it rains, right?
It rains. Oh no, it's raining. Oh, guess I can't do anything today. Well, Paul, thank you. But you were a huge part of that, and the Tyson challenge that we did, and then what you're doing with some of your monthly challenges. That format has become the framework in which I've been able to put on my own oxygen mask. The airplane analogy sticks with me. Oxygen mask has to go on before you put it on your child, because you can't help your child if you're not alive. It was just like, right. Duh. And the first time hearing that on an airplane, I'm like, really? Aren't we supposed to think of others first? Oh, wait, you can't help others until you help yourself. It's so hard for us to learn. I think that's like a big thing for all of us right now.
Yeah. Well, especially kind of growing up in the Midwest where you're taught to, be humble, make sure that you take care of other people before you always don't be selfish.
Yep. Don't
But
think too
yet,
highly of yourself. Garrison Keeler, like Wobegon Trail,
yep. Or the musky golf outing, right? The number one goal of the musky golf outing is that nobody leaves with an ego.
Yep.
Everybody's brought down to size a little bit, which is great.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
I think this is a great place to end our conversation. It was so fast. We flew through a lot. You really opened up a lot to not only me again, but to this listener. And I just can't thank you enough. I'm a big fan of yours. You've taught me a lot as we've gone on, and man, I just thank you, and I love you, man.
Well, Paul, I love you too. Thank you so much for having me on, and what you're doing here is amazing. I'm enjoying all your presentations, and so what you're giving to us is really cool, and it's fun, it's inspirational, and keep going, man. This is cool.
All right, man. I appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.